So it's been another week. This week's video is all about me attending my pre-op nursing appointment.
No, traffic. Everyone's driving like 5 miles an hour for obvious reasons.
Eventful, to say the least. So last week I spent some time in the gym, working out, keeping my body fit and healthy. I've also been drinking lots and lots of water, keeping myself hydrated and just helping myself to really prioritize my health. As you all know, I love to be in the kitchen, and one of these meals I made this week was some pan-fried sea bream with cannellini beans, which was delicious. This is me out and about in the snow as well. I had to obviously get pictures. As you can see, still snowing in Manchester, particularly on our pre-op day. So come with me as I take you on a wonderful journey of the pre-op nursing appointment.
All right. Mr. Scott?
Yeah, man, let's go.
Let's go. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's so good to have you here. My name's Nicola and this is my Journey to Motherhood series, and this is episode 2. So today's episode is all about my pre-op nursing appointment. Now, I've got to be honest guys, I was absolutely, sorry, I'm just topping up on my lippy. I was absolutely reticent, nervous, worried about this appointment. I did not know what to expect. I had quite a bit of anxiety around it. For those of you who are awaiting this appointment, you will probably understand me more. For those of you who have already had this appointment, you will probably be like, I understand why, but keep calm. So today we're going to be delving into everything that happened at that appointment. Hopefully I'll be able to help those of you who are on your journey and doing IVF through the NHS to kind of have a little bit more of an understanding of what will happen at that appointment. But let me just take a sip of my tea. If you are at home and you are relaxing, I suggest you grab a cup of tea or a coffee, whatever floats your boat. And let's get into it. First of all, my husband decides that he's also gonna get his car in the garage that morning. So our first issue was the snow. Now, we're in the north in Manchester and the snow has been absolutely crazy. It's been relentless, it's been non-stop. Thankfully, today we've got a few more degrees on the clock, so the snow and the ice is melting. But hubby decided that he was going to put his car in the garage, and therefore we had to do that first. And then there was this huge truck on our way to get into the garage that just stopped us, and we had to do a whole diversion. So my anxiety is now really, really lifting. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, are we going to miss the appointment? Are we going to be late for the appointment? Like, what's going to happen? And when you've got all of these things rushing around in your head and you're trying to focus on one of the most important things that you're going to do this year, and you're like, and breathe. So we had to do a diversion and the clock is going. He jumps into my car. And then I'm like, we need to call the hospital just in case we are going to be late, and just let them know. The Google Maps said 18 minutes away, and that left us literally a 10-minute window. That's 10 minutes to walk in the snow across the ice to get to the hospital from where we were parking. And it is a little bit of a walk. So my anxiety was really, really rising. So hubby calls, has this conversation, says, you know, my wife's got this appointment. And then the phone cuts out. So I'm like, at this point, I just need to leave this in God's hands. We will make it. Just keep calm. And I don't know about you, but all over this journey, everybody has said to me, one of the main things you need to try and do on this IVF journey is to keep calm, is to avoid stress and drama and just to be as relaxed as possible. So this is me really trying my best to achieve that. And at times it's a bit of a challenge. So we got to the hospital, the reproductive medicine, and we had about 4 or 5 minutes to spare. And I was like, thank you, Jesus. Like, God, you came through for me once again. I worship you. So I was really, really relieved at that point. So they said to us, right, we're going to do a blood test. So you start with a blood test, or at least I started with a blood test. And they were testing to see if I had sickle cell anemia or was a carrier of the sickle cell disease, which for those of you who don't know, it is more prevalent in African and Caribbean communities, and therefore I'm obviously at higher risk for that. As far as I know, I'm not, I don't have it, definitely don't have it. As far as I know, I'm not a carrier, but we'll still wait for those blood tests to come through. And then they escorted us into this room. Now, I was saying on some of my stories how nervous I've been about the nurses that we were going to have on the day. If you're like me, you're in the over 30s or over 40s club, and you see the words that they use to describe women having children over 35, geriatric, which is just so outdated and so like, oh my gosh, like, can someone else not come up with a better term to describe me in the situation that I'm about to embark on? So I was kind of tense and prepared to be offended in this room. The door opened and 2 lovely girls met us. They probably were in their sort of late 20s, early 30s, I would say. And they had the biggest, warmest smiles. And straight away, I just felt at ease. My husband felt at ease. And I feel like all the pre-stuff that I had imagined were just disappeared. The lady couldn't have smiled anymore. The whole time she was smiling. And there was zero mention of my age until I mentioned that I was 42. They then laughed and said, what? We thought you were about 30. I was like, I know black doesn't crack, but I am 42, about to be 43 next month. And they just really put me at ease. And I just, thank God, I feel like they were handpicked strategically for me. So what they did was they asked us a series of questions about our health, about where we live, do we live with each other, our occupation, any medication that I'm on. So I'm on medication to control my asthma. So I gave them that prescription, the milligrams, all of that. They checked my height and weight again and asked me, is this my, is that the weight that I average at? Which I answered yes to as well. They asked me where I was in my current cycle, when my last period was, and all those sorts of things that kind of go alongside with obviously what you're about to embark on. They asked about if we travel to any of the, is it Zuka countries, places in Africa, I think in Asia, where, Ebola and malaria disease are highly contagious over there and things like that. And yeah, just general questions and actually similar to the questions that are in your consent forms. I just want to touch on those consent forms. For anyone who is about to undergo IVF treatment, and I will presume it's the same for privately treated patients, you need about 6 hours in order to go through the consent forms, to read the forms, to answer the forms correctly, to watch the videos, and to breathe. The video content, you're looking at around 2.5 hours, maybe, something like that. But it was intense and relentless. And I do not wish to go through that again, but if I had to, I might book a day off. But that was insane, honestly. And so some of the questions that they had asked on the consent forms, they repeated some of those questions again. I mean, people can make mistakes, I guess, and I guess it's covering their tracks as well, which I think is important. So that was really interesting. They asked my husband some questions as well. They asked questions like, They explained that when you do egg collection, you'll need to have someone with you because you won't be able to really drive or anything like that for, say, 24 hours. So they were checking if it was going to be him, and he said, it is going to be me and only me. And that was quite funny. But yeah, they just made it really relaxed and light-hearted. And then they asked this really funny question. So they asked our names, etc., and we had to give our ID as well. So make sure you bring your identification. And then they asked, are you married? So we was like, yeah, of course we're married. We've been married over a year now. Then the next question was, duh, 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 but are you married to each other? That question absolutely threw me. I was like, are we married to each other? Like, well, yeah. Then they explained that they've had couples who may have been in previous relationships and maybe divorces haven't come through yet, etc. And they're on this journey. And I was like, I love the inclusivity of the NHS, and I love the fact that they've obviously come across this on many occasions and they're just trying to check all of the bases. So that was really quite funny and interesting. And I was like, I am married to you, babe, aren't I? So yeah, that was quite funny. They then asked us to get out our phones to have a look on the Salve app. Now, for all NHS patients, once you have your consultation, the doctor sends you an email and they send you a link to this app called Salve, which is for any IVF patients who are going to be undergoing treatment. Now, this app, again, it's more reading, it's more videos, but it's really informative and helps us to understand the journey that we're about to embark on. So they literally went through all the different features of the app. They also then gave me this form, which is the pre-operative paperwork that is completed with the nurse there. So it has a table that has on it the days of stimulation, then it has all the drug information that you're going to take, and then it has all the dates of when you are meant to take each medication. It's quite layered and quite complicated. So I actually took a picture of it on my phone. I'm going to laminate this and I'm going to put it up in my office because they explained that it's really, really critical that the medication is taken at the correct times and nothing's missed. I had a question. They also kept saying, if you've got any questions, please ask these questions now. That's what this appointment is about. So I had a question around my age. And I turned 43 in February, and the cutoff for IVF treatment on the NHS is 43. You've got to be below 43. So you've got to be 42. So my question was, so let me go back a little bit actually. They said to me, they asked me, when is your cycle starting? So I explained that my cycle will start on around about the 25th or 26th of January. So they said what happens is once you start your period and you're on your full flow, you have to send a message through the app to request that you can start your treatment. You cannot start with your treatment until a nurse has authorized that you can start your treatment. So I was like, right, okay, so what if I miss the first day? Like, what if something happens? They explain to you that you have a 1 to 3 day window. So it can be on day 1 of your cycle, day 2 or day 3 of your cycle that you can start treatment. So they made it really clear that you cannot start treatment without their authorization. They explained that a lot of patients would have been wanting to start their IVF cycle in December, but the centre in Manchester closes down for a cleanup in December. So all of the patients who were wanting to start in December will have now been in a large queue and wanting to now start in January. So she said there'll be a huge backlog of people wanting to start in January. So she basically said to me, there may be, unfortunately, a delay for you starting this cycle. It might be the next one, but you will not know until you send in your request when you start your first cycle day of full flow. So I was like, at first I was a bit annoyed, like, well, I'm actually one of those people who would have wanted to start in December. However, I'm thinking now, like, This whole thing is about timing. It's about trying to get the best quality egg in order to form, you know, the best embryos, etc., the best quality sperm, all of that. And I just had a moment where I said, you know what, God, you know, there's a Bible verse in that talks about, before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you. And it reminded me that, yes, I'm working with the doctors and I'm working with science, and I'm doing IVF. However, God is also in the midst and he's also in control. And so I just relinquished control in that moment. I said, you know what, God, you know when we need to start this treatment. So if we start at the end of January, amazing. If we start at the end of February, my birthday month, amazing. Whenever we start this, it's in your hands. And so I actually felt a little bit of a blessing, actually, that there's actually a choice. And then I said, but what about I turn 43 at the end of February? She gave me this little nugget, and I've heard this a couple of times. And she said, a patient needs to have commenced treatment. Oh, I feel like I just felt an ovulation pain. That's really weird. I thought, I'm so sorry, this is like crazy. I was meant to ovulate on Friday. Had acupuncture on Thursday, sorry. Had acupuncture on Thursday, but I've literally just felt the ovulation, like I get like a needle, tingling needle sensation. That is so weird, but so great at the same time. So anyway, she basically said what they can do, they can put a patient on the contraceptive pill or another type of pill to say that person has commenced treatment. But once you're in a treatment cycle, the age thing is absolutely fine. So I was really reassured with that, because I was like, oh my gosh, but I need to have like gone down the whole route by the time I'm going to turn 43 and all of this business. But for those of you who are thinking the same, actually, you just need to have started some form of treatment. So we can relax with that. They then also went through, you know, all of the guidance around how you go about injecting yourself, and they directed us to all the videos on the Salve app. Talked about the timings being crucial, and I think one of the main drugs, the menopause, which is the stimulation drug, or stims as they call it for short, that has to be taken between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. And they also talked about the fact that some of the drugs have to be put in the fridge, and therefore somebody has to be at home to receive the drug delivery. They advised me that from Monday, somebody will be in touch to deliver the prescription. They also talked about the fact that with the prescription, if you pay for your medication, then obviously you'll have to pay for that. I think it's £9.90 a prescription or something like that. So all in all, I would say our pre-op nurse appointment was a huge success. Allayed any fears that I had, and actually has really prepared me for our treatment that will be coming up. Either the end of this month we'll start with stims, or next month. Either way, I feel so much better. I just want to shout out my hubby on this for these gorgeous ears that these gorgeous earrings he bought me for Christmas. I absolutely love them. Yeah, and today we had a great time at church, and as we were worshipping, I was just imagining what the end of this year is going to look like. So if you're on your IVF journey or your fertility journey and you're struggling, I really hope that this video encourages you. We will be back with a new episode next week, and yeah, I'm praying that your journey is a success, as I'm praying that mine is, and that we get to hold our precious bundles of joy very soon. So thanks for watching. See you soon.